Welcome to Beyond Love and Light podcast, where we bypass the fluff, lift the veil, and explore how to navigate the human experience as a spiritual being. I am Laura Gevanter, a transformation coach, psyche, and emotion code facilitator. Join me as we delve into topics relating to human consciousness, alternative healing modalities, quantum physics, and the psychology of spirituality. I bring you insights and information from amazing guests and my own experience and observations. Please remember to subscribe to get notifications. And if you'd like to know more about me and my work, please go to my website, www.lauragevanter.com. So let's get on with the podcast. Bruce Lipton is a cell biologist, lecturer, and an internationally recognized leader in bridging science and spirit. He was on the faculty of the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine and later performed groundbreaking stem cell research at Stanford University. Bruce is the best-selling author of The Biology of Belief and Spontaneous Evolution. His latest book, The Honeymoon Effect, The Science of Creating Heaven on Earth. I have to say, this book completely changes the way you look at relationships and to really, really see what's possible by becoming more conscious. Hello, Bruce. Welcome to the show.
Laura, thank you so much. I so appreciate this opportunity to speak with you and your wonderful audience. So this is great.
Oh, well, I've been so excited to talk with you about this. This book is really, really fabulous. And like I said, I really think it's going to change the way people look at relationships and see what's possible. And what I think is really, well, it was curious to me anyway, is that, you're known for such books as The Biology of Belief and Spontaneous Evolution and, very well known for your research on stem cell biology. And now you write a book on relationships. I would
Surprising
love to know,
me, too.
Well, I'd love to know what prompted you to study the connection between cells and love and then to go on and write the book.
Well, all of it, it's funny because when I was just finishing the book, actually, I realized, because you said, well, it's sort of like disconnected from this other, the other two books. And I realized, no, they're a trilogy. And the biology of belief is how our personal belief affects our personal biology, our genetics, and our behavior. And the spontaneous evolution was how our collective beliefs shape the world in which we live and the reality that we experience. And I realized that in this process, we're going through an evolution to understand who we really are and the nature of our collective evolution, that it's community is the destination. And then the idea is this: you can't really start a community until you can actually connect with some other one individual first. And so biology of belief is belief for the individual. The honeymoon effect is the beliefs on how two people can come together and create this unity. And spontaneous evolution is about how 7 billion of us can come together and create a higher level of evolution.
Wow, it's really amazing. And, it makes total sense. It really does. Because if you can't form a relationship with one other person, then there goes, for the rest of humanity. So I think it really...
Absolutely. And it's kind of funny because people that know me for at least from a while back, and they said, Bruce Lipton wrote a book on relationships. Are you crazy? How? What? And the fact is, well, because I've actually been involved in an experiment in my own life in biology of belief, and I am now, it's an experiment that's ongoing. It's called Happily Ever After. And right now I'm 17 years into Happily Ever After, and it's just as fresh and beautiful today as it was 17 years ago. So applying the principles that I talk about made a profound difference. It's very funny for me because I lecture in the biology of belief, and I started lecturing about this in 1983, I think, 84. And I remember I'd give this lecture, and because I understood the nature of this mechanism about how cells work, which is actually a new science called epigenetics. I saw it 40 years ago and started to work and understand it. And epigenetics is how our perceptions of life adjust our biology. So when I understood the nature of this, I remember getting up in front of people the first time around saying, listen, if you understand what I'm really talking about, you can create this most fabulous life. And they would look at me and cock their heads a little bit and go, Lipton, your life doesn't look that good for a guy who says you know how to do this. And I realized I was almost about to say, well, do as I say, not as I do. And I realized, wait a minute, there's a disconnect here. My consciousness is totally aware of all this stuff, but my life is still the same old life. And that's when I realized I had to change the way I was running my life to manifest what my consciousness was aware of, but make it part of my life. And when I started to do that, it changed my whole life, and it led me into, and I think this is fundamental for all the work that you're doing, is the first important belief that we have to accommodate. And I know when we test a large, in groups of people, 80% or more of the people will not test positive for a belief statement of, I love myself. And this is the most profound thing, because if you can't love yourself, then by definition, how can anybody else love you? It doesn't make sense. If you're not lovable, then how can somebody love you? I guess they have no, criteria or anything. But you'd have to say, and why this becomes important is because before you can go out and love somebody else, you have to love yourself. Otherwise, you're immediately connecting to a codependency relationship, and that's a disaster waiting in the wings right there.
Well, most people are not, and I would say this, most people are not brought up in an environment that it's facilitated that we're supposed to love ourselves. It's like we're criticized from a very young age. We're told what not to do. Society tells us how to be. And I think it makes sense why very few people would really be able to say, I love myself, and really feel it. I'm going to say that, that just doesn't seem like the way most people start their lives.
No, they don't. This is and this is the fact. And this is why 80% or more of the people have this issue. It's very interesting because there's a programming period during development. The first 7 years, our brain is in a record mode. It's functionally on an electroencephalograph reading the EEG of brain activity. A child doesn't have brain activity of a high enough frequency for consciousness, alpha, which is that frequency alpha, and as a predominant brain state until after 7, meaning the first 7 years, they're not operating predominantly at all in the concept of consciousness. They're operating in a lower vibrational frequency called theta. And theta is connected with us. If you get in theta right now, you're in a state of imagination. Well, you think about it, that's where kids between 2 and 7 especially are playing in the imaginary world, mixing it with the real world, and they're expressing that theta activity. But people don't also recognize a more important fact. Theta is hypnosis. And basically what it does is you download behavior and the rules of life by observing other people and then recording their behavior, especially like your mother or your father or your siblings, family, community, etc. The point about it is this, is that the first 7 years then, you're not in a state of consciousness, you're just downloading. And not only do we download the rules of how to fit into a family and, how to make the dynamics work, more importantly, and this is where your work comes in, Laura, very importantly, more importantly, we are also downloaded with who are we. See, we don't have a consciousness of self-consciousness is not really working at that level yet. After 7, self-consciousness kicks in. So before self-consciousness, like who am I? Well, you find out who you are by what people say about you, your parents or the people around. And what we find out is 70% of the stuff they say is disempowering and limiting and self-sabotaging kinds of things. Interesting, a parent feels like they're like a coach. Okay, so I'm coaching my kid to be better. And what they don't recognize is that when a kid is under 7, whatever the parent says is just directly recorded, just like on a videotape. Here it is, this recording. And parents are like encouraging their children like coaches. How does a coach encourage them? They go out there and say, you could do better. That wasn't good enough. Go practice more. Do better. That's not right. And so the first 7 years of our lives, parents are thinking they're helping us by, well, you're not good at this, meaning that you could be good at this, but you're not, so work on it. But you have to be able to be conscious to figure out what your parents are meaning. If you just record what your parents said was, you're not good at this, you're not that, and you're not this, and you don't deserve things, and who do you think you are? These are their efforts to try to get us to think in a different way, but a child is not thinking in that level before 7, so it's a direct recording. And the behaviors associated, who are we, are predicated on these recordings. So then we judge ourselves not by what we personally believe, we judge ourselves by what people have said about us that we recorded, and most of that is very negative and therefore very critical.
Well, so what you're basically saying is that we have very little control over what information we take in and how this is really shaping our lives until we come to the point we realize we have some issues, and then we have to do some work, right?
Yeah, this is absolutely true. And see, and the problem is this. What I'm talking about is that the biology belief has been out there for a while, and it's a solid understanding about the nature of how your beliefs and your perceptions of life shape your biology, and then it comes down to your mind. So it's really a book about the biology of how a mind connects to a body. And so we say, yeah, the mind is controlling your life, and then we have to say, well, wait, there's two parts to this mind. There's the conscious part and the subconscious part. Now, these are profoundly important to understand because we group them together so that they're like the one mind. It's like, no, it's a two-part mind, and the two parts they work together, but they're not the same. So this becomes important. So to define, firstly, what is it when I say mind, what does it represent? I say, well, conscious and subconscious, say they're two different minds. They work in different ways, and more importantly, they learn in different ways. And this is where the problems come from. And it goes like this. If we just briefly look at it, conscious mind is like the seat of your personal identity, your spirit, your uniqueness. You as an individual represent something in the conscious mind, which is the latest evolution of the brain. Just behind your forehead is a lump of brain tissue called the prefrontal cortex. That's where the seat of your personal identity is. And the relevance about the conscious mind that makes it so profound is that it's creative. The conscious mind, I say, imagine this or that, and you can put things together and create, and it's all great. So, and the conscious mind's creative as compared to the subconscious mind, which is much more powerful, but it's a habit mind. It plays programs. It doesn't do creativity very well at all. It just push the button, play the program, push the button, play it again for your whole life. Every time you push the button, it's going to play the program. So two minds, creative, conscious mind connected to you, and subconscious mind programs. And so now, and then here comes the problem, I guess, if we really just get right to the point. What is the problem in our world today? And the problem is this. We believe we are running our lives with our conscious mind. So when you get up in the morning, you say, yes, I'm going out to be successful today. I'm going to be in love. I'm going to find health. I'm going to get a great job. And you go out in the world, and then you come home at night with your tail between your legs, and you go, well, that didn't work. And you say, but what happened? Well, the first thing was this. Well, it wasn't me, because I was the person who went out in the morning looking for success. And when I come home not finding it, then it can't be me. I'm a victim of life and circumstances and fate and all these things. So there's a belief that, yes, we have great wishes and desires, and yet we don't manifest them, and it's not us, it's just the world. That's our belief. Now comes the truth. Science has now recognized, yes, the conscious mind is the creative mind. Wishes, desires, aspirations. What do you want? That's what the conscious mind's all about. And here's the problem that this is the cause of the problem, and that is this. The conscious mind is not time-bound. So I say, Laura, what are you doing next week? And you move your mind into next week. You start looking into seeing what the future is about. And I go, wait. What did you do last week? Then your mind goes backwards in time, and now it's thinking about the past and, drawing up images. Or I say, no, wait. I want you to go in your head and imagine this. And then all of a sudden your conscious mind now goes up into this like imagination room up in your head. What was the point? The conscious mind is not time-bound. It can think into the future, go back over the past, or just disconnect. And I say, well, why is this relevant? And the answer is because the moment the conscious mind is not paying attention to what's ever happening at the immediate moment, the default is that the subconscious picks up the job and runs it out of habit. Okay? So now the crux of the problem is science has realized this fact. This is like blow your mind. We're only conscious, being present with our conscious mind 5% of the time. Because 95% of the time it's thinking about things and it's not paying attention. 5% of our lives are actually coming from the control and wishes and desires and aspirations of the conscious mind, you. And 95% of your life is playing from the habits that were downloaded in the subconscious mind because that's the default. And the significance about this is that the fundamental beliefs in that subconscious mind for 7 years are downloaded by taking other people's perceptions and making them yours. So when you default to the subconscious, you're not defaulting to your wishes and desires, you're defaulting to the program, other people's behaviors. And all of a sudden you realize, but other people don't have your wishes and desires, and therefore when you're playing 95% of your neurological cognitive activity from the subconscious programs, you're not playing your wishes and desires, you're playing other people's lives. And therefore, you start out thinking, I'm going to create happiness today, and then you go out in the world, and 95% of your life is reactionary, habit, push the button, play the program, as your conscious mind's thinking like, hey, what's happening? your subconscious is driving you to ruin at this moment. So this becomes a problem.
Yeah, oh my God. I've never heard it stated in such a way that really brings it all together and makes such sense, where it's like, oh my God, it's amazing anybody accomplishes anything.
Well, this is it, and it's invisible. And that is, therefore, then the bottom line. Why is it the biggest problem? The problem is this. When your conscious mind is thinking, as I said, and it's not paying attention, you default to the subconscious. Then I say, but here's the problem. Because your conscious mind is busy, it's not observing you play the subconscious program. So it has no reality of what your behavior is when you're not paying attention. In my lectures, everyone laughs because they're so familiar with it. I say, look, go back in your life. I'm sure you were close to somebody in your life, a friend. You knew your friend's behavior very, very well, and you happen to know your friend's parent. And you start to recognize one day that your friend has actually some of the same behavior as their parent. So you volunteer something simple. You go, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. And then you back away from Bill, who goes ballistic, like, how could you compare me to my dad? And everyone laughs. Why? They're familiar with it. And I go, now here's the issue, or 2 profound points, one story. Profound point number 1, this is what I was emphasizing. When you shift into the subconscious control, because your conscious is busy, you don't see the behavior. So point, Bill learned his behavior first 7 years by copying a lot of his father's behavior. So when his conscious mind is thinking about something, he defaults and plays his father's behavior. Everyone else around says, wow, he's just like his dad. But Bill didn't see that, because when he was playing his dad's subconscious program, he was doing it because his conscious mind wasn't paying attention. And therefore he never sees it. So that's how he says, how can you compare me to my dad? And everyone else can see it. Okay? That's profound point 1. And now let's put profound point 2, because this is critical to your work, my work. All of us are Bill. All of us do this every day without seeing it. And the issue is, if you don't see your behavior, well, the problem is, if your behavior is supporting you, no problem. But if your behavior is actually not good behavior, it's a bad download, then when you're not seeing it, you're sabotaging yourself. But you didn't see it. And as a result, things happen that don't support you, and then immediately look around and go, well, the world's not supporting me. It's like, It was your own subconscious program that sabotages you. And until you get that, everyone looks at the world as being, I'm a victim in a world because I have wishes and desires to go there, and this is what I ended up with. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't see the invisible stuff operating 95% of the time. That is where the self-sabotage comes in. And if you don't see it, then you're perceived you're not responsible, and that is where we have lost out. We are responsible, but without knowledge of this, it doesn't make any sense.
Right, unless we know that, we can't do anything. God, it's not easy being human, is it?
Well, when you get, look, a body is like a vehicle, and when we come into the body, we get driver education. First 7 years, driver education. How do you handle this vehicle in this world? But we get the driver education from teachers. So whatever program we got, whatever education we got, it didn't come from our consciousness. It came from other people. So if you have a bad teacher, the simple point with cars, 2 cars come off the assembly line exactly the same time. equally built. Well, they're good cars. Both of them come off at the same time. You give one car to a hothead teenager, and you give the other car to a mature adult. And I ask you, which car is going to last longer? And the teenager's car is going to be in a junkyard first. And I say, well, because the car was bad? We blame the car? I go, no, it wasn't the car, it was the driver. And I go, the biology of the body is a vehicle, the mind is a driver, and we got driver education. If we got a good education, parenting, then we will manage the vehicle, it will be healthy, stay healthy for a very long time, and have a wonderful life. If you have bad driver education, then life's not going to be that great, either physiologically or behaviorally. It's not what you're going to want. So we've been blaming the vehicle, we've been blaming nature, and it really is, it's the driver education.
Great analogy. So let's get back to the book, since there's so much great stuff in there. Let's just start out with the basic. What is the honeymoon effect?
The honeymoon effect is this very special period when you just fall in love with somebody, okay? And when I give a lecture, I probably define it by usually through 3 questions I ask people in the audience. I say, go back to a time you fell in love. And almost everybody has, so most everybody in the audience can at least go back to some period. And it doesn't have to be like a love that lasts forever. It could last for a week. So did you fall in love for a week once, or a month, or a year? Mm-hmm. And I say, let's go back to the time you fell head over heels in love. I'll ask 3 questions. Number 1, when you had fallen in love in that time period, go back and say, ask yourself, were you healthy? Almost everybody says they were exuberantly healthy when they fell in love. I mean, it was just like glowing in love. People see that, that person's in love, they're glowing. Yeah, they become very healthy. I say, did you have energy when you fell in love? And we all laugh because everyone knows they made love for days without stopping for food or sleep and stuff like that. So there was a lot of energy around. And then more importantly, the 3rd question I asked, was life so beautiful at that moment you fell in love that you couldn't wait for the next day to have more? Because it was so great. It was such a great life experience that waking up and being there in that love was the most wonderful thing. And they all go, yeah. I said, well, wasn't it like heaven on earth? And the answer is, yeah, it was. It was just beautiful. And then I go, that is the honeymoon effect. But I want you to know, it was not an accident. It wasn't a coincidence. You actually created that. You created that. And unfortunately for most people, it doesn't last very long. So they have that experience, and then it either just goes into everyday life, which means you could love a person, but it's not that same electricity of the honeymoon, but that's all lost. Now it's just everyday life again. Or what happens is the compromises become so great in that post period that actually relationships break up, and then people are left with, how did something so wonderfully beautiful go so wrong? And it turns out, here's the scientific understanding. Just we'll cut to the simplest one. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The conscious mind is your creative wishes, desires, aspiration mind. The subconscious is the habit mind, with the fundamental habits actually being other people's behaviors recorded into your subconscious. On a day-by-day basis, science reveals that we only operate from the conscious mind 5% of the time. So that means only 5% of the time are you making decisions and behaviors based on your wishes and desires. 95% of the time, your behavior is coming from the programs in the subconscious mind. And I say, well, what happened during the honeymoon? And here's what it is. It's the one time in your life you don't default to the subconscious mind. Your conscious mind stays present. You say, well, why would that happen? I go, look, everything you were looking for in your dream is in front of your face. So why would you go back into the dream? It's right here. So your conscious mind stays present. Well, if your conscious mind's present, your partner's conscious mind is present, then by definition, every behavior you're going to be engaged in is going to be determined by your wishes and desires. And all of a sudden, when 2 people are totally creating from wishes and desires, what did they create? Heaven on earth. That was their wish and desire, and they did it. It's called the honeymoon. And I said, well, then what happened? Well, inevitably, life is still going on. You still have a job. You got to pay the rent. You got to fix the car. You have to do the chores, whatever it is. And I say, why is that important? Because the moment these thoughts come into your head of I got to do this or that or whatever, and thinking, by definition, remember, when the conscious mind gets busy in thought, you shift back to the subconscious program. But the behaviors in the subconscious were not necessarily yours. They came from other people. So here you are in a relationship. You and a partner. You're both operating from conscious minds. You're both expressing behaviors and lifestyle and wishes that agree with each other, and together you manifest as heaven on earth. And then one of you all of a sudden really has to deal with real life, and your thoughts start shifting away from the current moment and start thinking about, oh my God, next week I got to do this and I got to do that. And I say, yeah, but the moment you did that, you shift into subconscious control, which is habits and behaviors from other people. So let's just say my partner Margaret and I are having this wonderful thing going, this wonderful relationship, and then one day she comes up and asks me a question, and I happen to be thinking about the work I have to do next week, and I make an automatic response, automatic from the habit mind, and I respond to her and I go, blah, 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 and she looks at me and goes, who are you? Where did this behavior come from? Well, that, boys and girls, is the beginning of the end of the honeymoon. But let me explain what happened. What happened was I'm thinking about what I have to do. Margaret comes up, asks me a question. My subconscious mind kicks in, plays a tape. But the tape is my father. I downloaded his behavior. So I respond to her in a way my father responded to my mother. She looks at me in total shock. Why? Well, that's never been part of our relationship. Now, up to this moment, I've been living from my wishes and desires for a love and honeymoon and heaven on earth, and I've been living from that, and that's what we have. And then at this moment, I'm not thinking about that because my thoughts are somewhere else, and my automatic behavior plays my father. This behavior sucks. She looks at it and goes, wow, excuse me, where did that come from? and you know, it's the kind of behavior, had I done that, let's say, on day one, she may have not gone on a day two with me at all, you know, but it didn't play. It didn't play for, let's say, a couple of months. And all of a sudden now it plays. And it's like, and then here's where the problem comes from. I just played my father's behavior. And she looks at me and says, who are you? And now all of a sudden I'm brought my attention to the front again, conscious attention, going, what are you talking about? And she says, your behavior. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I've always been this way. Well, that's actually true, but I didn't see what I did. Why? Because when I responded to her using my father's behavior tape, I did that because my conscious mind was busy, so I didn't see what she said. But now I've been accused of not being me. And all of a sudden it's like I get very defensive. And all of a sudden you start to realize the communication thing is completely broken down here. I didn't see what I said. It was lousy behavior. I've been accused of having lousy behavior, but since I didn't see it, then I'm talking about that's not me, which it really wasn't me, but it was my father, but I didn't see it. That's Bill playing his father's behavior. And the point about it is this. Every time a behavior that had been in the subconscious programming, but it never played because I'd stayed conscious, every time a new one of those behaviors is introduced in the relationship and it wasn't there, it didn't play before, but now does, it may not be a good behavior. And every time I'm not paying attention and I start playing these bad behaviors, my partner's like looking at me going, wow, you know, where did this come from? Who is this guy? What's going on? Not really sure, but then you weigh some things out and it may not be that bad, so you say, okay, we had a great relationship, but that's a lousy behavior he expresses, but I'll compromise, okay, because the relationship is really great. I just don't like it when he does that. And then another bad behavior shows up. Another compromise comes in. Another bad behavior and another compromise. And there's a point where the compromises take all the energy, and then I have no idea I'm sabotaging this relationship, and I can't accept that I'm responsible for this, and all of a sudden, the compromises can build to such a level that the relationship cannot go on anymore, and then relationships end. And that's where two people at the very end of a relationship reflect back and go, wow, how did something so wonderful and so beautiful go so bad? And the answer was, when you were living from the conscious mind, which is a Buddhist process, also referred to as mindfulness, keeping your conscious mind in the present moment, you're in total charge. But the moment your conscious mind gets busy and you default to subconscious, then you're not in charge of the programs. You're just playing whatever was stored in there. and those are usually from other people. So this is foundational, not just for falling in love, but Laura, your job, your coaching, and all this is really pivots on the same belief system, because the people say, yes, this is what I want in my life, and this is not what I'm getting.
Right. Yeah, and it's so powerful. And most people don't even know what their beliefs are. Most people don't, they wouldn't challenge it, or they wouldn't even look to examine to see what their beliefs are, unless they were working with someone who would say, tell me about, what do you think about relationships? What are your feelings about marriage? We don't examine these things. And then once they do come out, it's like, okay, great. Now I know what they are. What do I do about it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, is recognize it. I just want to help people a lot, because here's how I'm going to help you. Because basically, the programming occurs last trimester of pregnancy, and apparently it's been suggested that 50% of our personality is programmed during the last trimester of pregnancy. And that's because we're responding to our mother's emotional patterns. Very, very simple point. When I was teaching in medical school a long time ago, we say, what's the role of a mother in the development of the child? And the answer came down very simple. She provides nutrition. Genes control the development of the child. The woman just provides the nutrition, so a woman's like this incubator. And it goes, the nutrition from her blood crosses the placenta and nourishes the child. Well, that was before the new science of epigenetics and how environmental information controls genes, because, simple point, there's more in mother's blood than nutrition. In the mother's blood are all the emotional chemicals that she's dealing with, all the hormones that are affecting her biology and her behavior. That's being released into the blood. So the relevance is the fetus isn't just getting nutrition. It's getting the chemical responses of behavior played by the mother. So if the mother is happy, the chemistry of happiness crosses the placenta and the fetus is happy. If the mother is angry, the fetus is angry, etc. And the point is, the fetus doesn't have any idea why it's happy or why it's angry. It just has the sensations of the hormones affecting it and the emotional chemicals the same as the mother. But it doesn't have a storyline to it. Problems are that we start to record repetitive behavior. That's what the nervous system's job is, record pattern. If your mother has a pattern of behavior and you're that fetus, then you were learning the chemistry of the behavior. And you go, wait, I say, I got a way of clarifying this. Think of behavior as a song. It has lyrics and music. The emotional roller coasters up and down are the music. So the fetus is learning the music. It's learning, here's the happy chemicals coming in, dopamine, I'm in pleasure, here comes the stress hormones, now I'm not, It doesn't know why or anything, but it knows this music, up and down, up and down. When it's born, it's whistling a tune, so to speak, but what it will do is write experiential lyrics that match the music. And all of a sudden it says, yes, the behavior that you express was programmed by the behavioral music that you acquired even before you were born. 50% of our personality apparently is derived from that. So that we're being programmed before we're born, we're being programmed for 7 years, and all of these programs are necessary to get us off the ground, basically because you want to become a member of society, and you have to know the rules. You have to know how to participate. Well, you don't know how to do that. You're just born. So how do you learn? The answer is nature created the brain to be in a state of hypnosis to record all of this data, so you don't have to go to school at 2 years old. You can just learn it by seeing it. And if we don't have any awareness of it, then we have no understanding, like Bill, that the behavior we're playing may not be supporting us, and that's where the problems all come down. And the honeymoon is great, though. Okay, I guess I'll tell you.
Yeah.
The secret is this, as I said, normal day, 5% consciousness, wishes, desires control our life. Fall in love, science now reveals 90% of our life is now controlled by the conscious wishes and desires, and only a small percent from the pre-program. And that meant when you let go of the program, you became creative with your life. When you drop back into the program creates your life. And when you realize that the fundamental programs are not yours, then you realize that when you end up with a life that was not of your liking, it wasn't that you created that, but you have a program that will lead to that you acquired. And then you say, but Bruce, I don't know what the hell the programs were. They were before I was 7. And then I go, fun fact, 95% of your life comes from the subconscious. So by definition, your life is a printout of your subconscious programs. That's what it means. And so when you look at it that way, then I go, what comes to you that you like and it comes easily to you, it comes to you because you have programs in your subconscious that support that. In contrast, anything you have to work hard at, anything you make an effort for, anything you have to sweat over, you're doing that because inevitably your programs don't encourage that outcome. So you're fighting the program. The effort in fighting the program is all that work and sweat and possibly not getting to the end because the program is pretty strong. And so then the issue is, so you don't have to go over your history of your life to find out what the programs are. Just look at it. Again, if you have trouble making a success, then fundamentally there's programs in there that do not encourage your success. And if you rewrite those programs and change those programs, then you change the outcome of your life.
Right. I want to share something that I found so amusing and also a little unsettling that you mentioned in the book about online dating profiles. I thought this was really fascinating, that the character of you who answer the questionnaire normally expresses only about 5% of the time.
Yes.
That's the 5%. And then what you failed to include were the sabotaging and self-limiting subconscious programs that you've acquired from others that show up 95% of the time. So basically, if that's the case, then there's pretty much a chance in hell you're going to meet the right person on an online site if only 5% of you is really represented there.
Because when you're filling out a form, they're asking you questions. When you're asking questions, you are creating answers. When you're creating answers, by definition, it comes from the conscious mind, the creative mind. Okay? Well, the conscious mind is your perception of who you think you are. I'm lovable, I'm wonderful, I'm doing all these things and all that. I say, great. But then again, as you mentioned, that's 5% of your life. You didn't write down the invisible stuff because you didn't see it, so you didn't put it down on the application. The only time that stuff shows up is once you start to meet this person and the person all of a sudden says, you're not exactly the description that you put down on that application. And they will deny that just like Bill denies, what do you mean I'm like my father? I don't believe that. And it's like, and you say, but you didn't fill out this application right. And they'll go, what are you talking about? And there you go, same place as Bill was. So it becomes very critical to recognize if you're going to meet somebody based on an application, which mind filled it out? And the answer is, by definition, that mind that fills it out is the conscious creative mind. And that's not your life. It's your wish for your life. It's the desire that you want, but by no means is it what you actually live.
Very disheartening for all those people doing online dating.
Well, no, but basically it says, okay, look, this is really nice that they wrote this down. If you go into the reality, you see, this is the whole idea. If you're aware of conscious, subconscious, the dual nature of it, you're aware of it, and you get into a relationship, then you can, if both people are aware of it, then it becomes effective. In other words, if I get in a relationship with a person who also understands that I also have these subconscious behaviors that I don't see, and all of a sudden I do that blah, 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 instead of looking at me like, who are you, a person that understood where I was coming from because we both come from the same place and knowledge would say, did you really mean to say that? What you just said was this. Is this what you really said, or is this part of your programming? And all of a sudden, I don't have to be defensive anymore. It's like, oh, geez, I did say that. I didn't realize that. Okay. Yeah, I'm aware that I say things that I'm not aware of. So that's one of them. It gives me a chance to say, oh, I can change that. And then the relevance becomes, what is the relevance? It's profound. We get into the honeymoon with the conscious mind. We sabotage it with subconscious programs. Then I go, yeah, but what if you change the subconscious programs so that the new programs are in alignment with your wishes and your desires? Then the thing is beautiful for a simple reason. If my mind gets busy and defaults to the subconscious, I'm going to still play the same behaviors and beliefs that I play with my conscious mind, meaning then I'm always the person I want to be. Then even when it shifts to the subconscious, the new programs are the ones that I want to be, and so I'm living my life 100% of the time instead of 5%. So it's possible to do that.
Right. Just takes being conscious. I mean, that's That's basically the answer. There's one of my favorite chapters of the book was when you talk about vibration and the bad vibes that you're talking about, which are nature's way of alerting us when we're potentially with the wrong person. Yet so many people ignore this. And they listen with their head or their intellect. They'll say things like, he's such a good catch, he's from a good family, he's got a steady job, and on and on and on. And then they find themselves in an unhappy situation. And I would love to know, is this something that's a learned phenomena of our modern society to not trust our gut feelings or instincts, or is there something else going on here?
Every organism on this planet, from the most primitive organism to the most advanced organism, the first and primary level of communication is vibration. And that's the first language. Everything vibrates. And when things are vibrating in harmony with you, we call it good vibes. But some vibrations cause noise in your system. Those are called bad vibes. And nature does this to allow the communication of organisms that don't have the conscious processing we have. Does a gazelle let's say in Africa, doesn't have to go up to a lion to ask the lion, are you my friend or not? No. Far enough away, the gazelle can feel that the lion's energy actually creates a bad vibe. And so the gazelle doesn't have to go to education class or anything. It just says, bad vibe, get out of here. Remember, good vibes take us towards something, bad vibes take us away. A bad vibe says, get away. Well, all levels of organism, all the way up to humans, have these vibes. But we are programmed, as you mentioned, we are programmed to not give credit to the vibes, but to give more emphasis to our conscious or reasoning about what's going on. Well, the problem with that is, as we talked about, reasoning could be flawed so greatly, but vibes aren't. And that's why we must recognize that the vibes are primary, and we should pay attention to them more than the rationalization, because a rationalization could take a bad vibe and say, oh, yeah, that's because of this, and it has nothing to do with me. And the fact is, you're thinking around the problem. The problem is hitting you straight on. It says, you're in a place where you're not right. That's what the bad vibe is saying. If you ignore the bad vibe, then you end up to become an opportunity to become the victim, because you're in a place where you're being told already by nature that your survival is in some way questioned at this moment. And if you ignore the bad vibes, then you're ignoring millions of years of evolution that gave us a very sophisticated mechanism to let us know our security and safety at any moment by the vibration. When we're in a right place, the vibrations are all in harmony. It's music, it's peace, and it's love. We're in the wrong place, the vibrations become noise, and they take away all the harmony, and that's the point. The point is there is no harmony here. Move. That's what the message is all about. And yet we can override it, and that's what we inevitably end up doing, is overriding.
Yeah, so many people do that because they think, oh, on paper this person looks great, or this is what I was taught. And then they find they don't listen to that feeling. They think, oh, it just must be fear, or it just must be, something else, and don't pay attention to that. But that's one of the things with all my clients is basically just tune in, ask yourself, how does this feel? What feels better? And it's never ever going to steer you wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting because people, they don't realize that feelings are the fundamental nature of every decision that we ever make. And I give us a story in my lectures. I say, look, you go to this wonderful department store, classy Saks Fifth Avenue, Nordstrom's or something, and I say, on this table there are 10 pairs of shoes. They're all from the same manufacturer, but they're 10 different styles. And I say they're all the same price. And you're going to go in there and you're going to buy a pair of shoes, and you come out with a pair of shoes, and I'm going to have to ask you, what was the fundamental reason that drove you to select that pair and not the other 9 pair? And you can't say, well, no, they're all the manufacturers the same. No, the price was the same. So it has nothing to do with that. So basically, what is it that allowed you to pick one? And the answer was, as you just said, feelings. This pair felt better than the other 9. And then all of a sudden you realize, then the fundamental nature of the decision was a vibrational feeling. That's what really made it happen. And then all of a sudden you begin to own this. And then when you start to own it, then you can start paying attention more to your vibrational feelings. and start saying, how do I learn to drive with this gauge that nature gave me? It gave me an opportunity to read this field, and by ignoring it, I inevitably will get myself in trouble.
One of the most wonderful statements in the book is that you state that couples living in the honeymoon effect influence the advancement of human civilization. That is such a powerful statement, and I'd love for you to just elaborate a little on this.
Well, a little bit, just a way of humorously seeing this is, remember when Harry met Sally with Meg Ryan, and she faked the orgasm at the table, and the woman at the other table says, "I want what she's having." Well, basically, when people fall in love, they radiate a harmonic vibration. Love is harmony. When people are in love, they glow physiologically. Their biology's in harmony. Their life's in harmony. When other people see this, there are reasons why they gravitate toward this. I'll give you a reason. They're called mirror neurons. And you go, okay, what the hell is that? Mirror neurons are neurons in the brain that are connected to observing the world and connecting it to behavior. So, in other words, when one animal watches another animal, by observing their behavior, the one who's the observer can actually feel or know what's going on. I'll give you an example. Let's say you go to Indiana Jones movie. He's in the cave, and the tarantulas are falling all over him and crawling on his arm and on his head, and the people in the audience go, "Ooh!" They squirm, and it's like, they're squirming. Why are they squirming? Because having had an experience of something walking on you, you've had that experience, right? And then when you see somebody else with something walking on them, guess what? You feel that. And that's why, that's where movies, you get involved in the movies, because you can have an experience similar to the person on the screen, and when they're having the screen experience from your memory, you can recall the feeling, okay? And so mirror neurons allow this to happen, and basically it allows you to read another person. So you can see by their face, are they happy, are they sad, and you can get a feeling from that. So mirror neurons help us work together in a community by allowing us to feel what another person's feeling, or to experience what another person experienced without you directly experiencing it. So when people look at a couple in love, there are mirror neurons that kick off in there that go, well, if I had that experience anytime in my life, it will come back right now. And at that moment, when they see the other people, they could feel good about because they had a personal experience. Like, oh yeah, that was good. But what would that do? Encourage them to find more of that. More people who seek it, the more people who experience it, the more people it amplifies. The more people involved, the more the other people start to see it and want to experience it as well. So as people in a larger community start forming this is what holds a community together. I mean, mirror neurons in this whole sense, basically, is you're working in harmony with other people by knowing what they're sensing and what they're experiencing. And when they're very positive ones, those are things that attract us, and negative ones, of course, cause us to be repelled. So people in love attract other people because the other people's mirror neurons can give them a vibe of, wow, I could feel that. And they're the ones in love, but I could feel it. And that drive will encourage people to go seek it themselves.
And it feels good to be around people when they're in love. It's just this fabulous energy, and you can't help it. Yeah, you want that for yourself, and it's contagious. It's just such a fabulous feeling to be around.
Yeah, and that's what we need a little bit more of in this world, because unfortunately, the programming that we received is programming of disempowerment. It's programming of victimization. It's a programming that you are not in control. And if that's what the program is, then 95% of your life unconsciously plays from these programs, and guess what? You're not in control, and everything seems like it's going to hell, and it's actually you're just playing a program. But it's not a very supportive program. So we really want to get this turned around, and that's why it's necessary. Every person that you touch, Laura, everyone that you in some way said, look, we could reprogram this, is a person that magically can be pulled out of the mass of the the fear and horribleness of what a lot of people see in this world, because they're participating in it. And if you pull out of it, you participate in another world. So you could be totally in love, and the world around you be totally crazy. As a matter of fact, think about it this way: before you fell in love the first time, up to the moment you met this person, I say, how's your life up to that moment? You go, hey, this sucks. It's not so great, you know? And then you meet this person, it's like, oh, heaven on earth. It's like,
right.
What happened? Same world. If you had not met this person, you'd still be back in that, this life sucks. And it's like, well, wait, that's another world. And yet you're still in the same world, but now you're experiencing heaven on earth. So it's your creation, your consciousness, that is manifesting the world. And then we go through this whole cycle, and I go, well, you know what's interesting? Quantum physics was introduced into the world in 1925. And in 1925, the leading quantum physicists recognized and told people and wrote it down that the new understanding of quantum physics revealed that consciousness is essentially participating in the creation of the world that we experience. That's a given. That says your consciousness is not just a passive event in the world, it's a creative character of the world. That was written in 1925. We haven't paid much attention to it, but the simple reality is it's an absolute true statement. If your consciousness has got a negative tilt to it, then when you move through the world, you're going to see all the negative things, and those negative things are going to come and directly interact with you because you vibrate at that level. And anything that vibrates at that level will then be attracted to you, law of attraction. Anything that vibrates at a different level will be repelled by you, law of repulsion. It's positive or negative. And basically, but what came to you and what didn't come to you? And I say, where were you before that thing showed up? Where was your vibration? If your vibration is in a negative place, then you will be receptive to a negative vibration. A positive vibration can come in the field and you can't even see it. That would be the biggest problem because you're not operating at that frequency. So the creative world is put back into our hands, but you can't make use of it unless you have knowledge of it. And that's why this is so important. You getting this information out, me talking about it as well. All of this is knowledge is power. And most important thing that we have been lacking is knowledge of self, which by definition is called self-empowerment. Right. So we have perceived ourselves as victims of genes, of life, and all this stuff. And the quantum physicists and all the people that have been moving in this new direction have been trying to say that is a perceptual error. You're not a victim except for your programming.
Bruce, I'd love to take this opportunity to ask you about this recent news event with Angelina Jolie, you being this stem cell biologist and doing all this sort of epigenetics. You are the person to ask this. And, there's been a lot of controversy because she chose to have preventative, elective, double mastectomy due to this mutant gene that she has that predisposes her to breast cancer. And doctors are telling her she was at 87. She didn't have this. There would be an 87% chance that she would receive breast cancer. And there's a lot of controversy as to the steps that she took and also the information that's out there. And I would love to just hear your perspective on this and the role that beliefs play in this.
Now, this is where the biology of belief comes in full-time, big time. It goes like this. What's your belief system about this? And how powerful is your belief system? I'll tell you this right away. If I hypnotize you right now, Laura, and I touch you with my finger, but I say this is a burning cigarette, where I touch you with my finger, you will create a blister in 30 seconds. You say, but obviously my finger didn't burn you. Where'd the blister come from? It didn't come from my touching you. It came from your perception of this is where a burn is occurring, and your mind created the blister. Simple fact. Well, why is this relevant? If you have a total belief and a perception you're going to get cancer, as long as you maintain that belief, then you're going to get the cancer. That's a fact because you're creating, okay? And this is what only 10% of cancer actually is hereditarily linked. 90% of cancer has no hereditary linkage. And yet the fact is, if she believes that, then unless she changes that belief, then her belief will manifest as then she has to follow her belief. But the problem is now if she tells other people that they believe it, then she's setting people up for cancer as well. And the fact is this. There is no cancer gene. There's nothing like that at all. It's basically like a chronic inflammation, which is actually mostly our consciousness creating disharmony in the system. And the concept of a mastectomy, first question is this. Yeah, 87%, and I still believe that's an extremely high, not accurate figure, but what does that mean? It says 13% of people have this gene and don't have the cancer. Now, you're talking about the 87% that have the gene and end up with the cancer. I want to know, more importantly, you got 13% of these people that have the same gene and don't have the cancer. What is different about those people? And the answer is, they have the same gene, but they don't have the same beliefs and perception and environment. And that's where the gene is controlled. The gene is not self-actualizing. That is meaning we have been programmed with the belief that genes turn on and genes turn off. In fact, no, genes do not turn on and turn off. We, through our perceptions and life experiences, control whether the gene is red or not red, but it has nothing to do with the gene. So giving the gene this power is, again, a disempowering thought for you, because you're saying the gene has power over me. It's like, no, it doesn't. You have power over the gene. It's your belief system. If the ads on television say, this is flu season, and you go, oh, yeah, it's flu season, I could get the flu, then you're going to get the flu. But if you're one of the people like me that says, I don't have time for the flu, I'm not going there. I can't do that. I got a busy life here. I don't get the flu. Well, it wasn't the flu that caused the problem. It was whether I opened myself up to the flu. But that's the same as I walk across hot coal. As long as I believe in total belief that I am okay, I'm okay. But if I start walking and have a momentary, instant, just, like, is it really true? A moment of doubt, just one moment of doubt, I will instantly burn myself. And the fact was, well, what's the difference? The fact is, when you were totally sure of yourself, there was no burn, and when you were doubtful that you could get burned, you got burned. And all of this is all of the same story. So, well, I remember talking to a woman about this issue of mutilating herself with a mastectomy, and I started talking with her, trying to give her the story about genes and stuff, and I realized she was so resistant to this story. She had so dogmatically believed, because of her father's a doctor, her brother's a doctor, her mother died of the cancer, grandmother died of cancer, and aunt died of the cancer. Between all their opinions, she was totally convinced that she was going to get this cancer if she didn't do that. And I realized, I stopped the conversation, I said, no, in your particular case, I think you should have the mastectomy. And the reason why was I realized she wasn't willing to even consider any other belief system, and since she wasn't willing, then her belief is going to be biology belief. She was going to manifest it.
So where can people get a hold of you, and where can they get the book?
BruceLipton.com. Very simple, BruceLipton.com. Or they can go to Amazon, but there's a lot more information to enhance what we talked about at BruceLipton.com. Free.
Okay,
download it.
And there's a lot of information. There's a lot of videos on the site. You are such a fabulous guest. I just absolutely loved speaking to you and sharing this fabulous information. It's just really, I just absolutely love the work that you do. So thank you, Laura, so much. Thank you for making the time to be with me today.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.